Welcome to another Chester history moment. I am standing here today in front of what's called the Dexter, or the French, or Journey's End home. This was built by Tappan Webster in 1787. He had a store here, but not for long. It went out of business and then he went off to Washington, D.C. In 1796, Lord Timothy Dexter, which I'm standing next to today, bought this home. He paved the whole driveway in granite pavers and offered to pave all of Chester Street in granite pavers if Chester would name it Dexter Street instead of Chester Street, and Chester said no. He had an entourage that would walk in front of him as he walked down Chester Street, and they would cry out, "Lord Timothy Dexter." But he wasn't a real lord. He named himself that. Lord Timothy Dexter was considered the most eccentric man in the United States in the 1700s. I don't know if he was eccentric, crazy, or the luckiest man on this earth. But he should have played the lottery if it was today, because everything he touched turned to gold. He was born in Malden, Mass, to an extremely poor family. He was indentured and left his family at 8 years old to learn the leather business. He saved and saved all his money, and then he walked from Malden, Mass, all the way to Newburyport. Here in Newburyport, he worked in the leather business. The first investment he made was he bought up all worthless continental dollars, thousands and hundreds of thousands of them, and everybody laughed at him. And then after the war, Congress honored these certificates and paid 1% on the dollar, and he made a fortune. He then bought a mansion in Newburyport, and he got married to Elizabeth there. She was 9 years older than Lord Timothy Dexter was. She was widowed, and he bought 2 ships, and from there made even more crazy investments. Lord Timothy Dexter was not born to money, and he was shunned by the people in Newburyport. And the businessmen of Newburyport made fun of him and also gave him some very bad tips for investments. And one of them was sending bedpans to the West Indies. Now the West Indies is very hot. These antique bedpans were used as putting coal or cinders inside, which were hot, and warming your bed at night between the sheets. Why would these be used in the West Indies? Well, he took them there and they sold. The whole ship of bedpans sold, and he made a ton of money. They used them for processing molasses. This is a drawing of his mansion in Newburyport, Massachusetts. In Europe, he purchased over 40 wooden statues to decorate his property with. The house still stands in Newburyport, and I've been in the inside where there was one statue left inside the house on the staircase. The statues were of Napoleon, Jefferson, George Washington, John Hancock, and many other famous people. So the bad tips always worked out well. One of them was taking cats to the Caribbean. He filled his ship with cats, and when he got there was a huge pest problem with rats, and everyone bought his cats up. And another one was whale bones. They gave him a tip to purchase whale bones, and just at that time, men were starting to use whale bones just for a few years in their clothing, and he made a killing on that also. And another tip that they gave him was to buy coal and bring it to Newcastle, England. Now, if anybody knew, Newcastle, England was the coal center of Europe. And he filled his ship with coal, brought it to Newcastle, and wouldn't you know, the coal industry just went on strike, and he made a killing again. He made so much money he didn't know what to do with it.
This was the only painting of him that I could find to give you an idea of what he looked like. And the drawing of him on the front of the book that he wrote. Remember, Lord Timothy Dexter was uneducated. There were so many misspellings in this book that you can hardly read it. The book was called A Pickle for the Knowing Ones. It was written in 1802. It criticized the clergy, politicians, and his wife. He was criticized for no punctuation in the book at all. So after the first edition, he added a page in the back of punctuation, and he said, put it wherever you want it. It must have been a popular book because it was reprinted 8 times. If you don't think he was crazy enough yet, he bought a coffin and he faked his own funeral to see how many people would come. He beat his wife because she did not cry hard enough. I don't know what brought Timothy Dexter to Chester. Timothy died at 59 years old and is buried in Marblehead, Massachusetts, with his wife.